What if I told you that the person you cannot let go of was never truly holding on to you? Think about that for a moment. How many nights have you spent missing someone who barely noticed your absence? How many times have you checked your phone, hoping their name would appear? How many times have you replayed old memories, searching for proof that they cared as deeply as you did? You tell yourself you should move on. You know they hurt you. You know they never valued you the way you valued them. And yet, your heart still goes back, again and again and again. But what if the reason you can let go has nothing to do with love? What if you are not holding on to who they truly are, but to the hope of who you believed they could become? The hope that one day they would understand your worth. The hope that one day they would apologize. The hope that one day they would finally choose you the way you chose them. Buddhist wisdom teaches that some of our deepest suffering does not come from losing people. It comes from clinging to the stories we created about them. And if you stay with me until the end of this video, you may finally understand why this attachment has felt impossible to break, why your peace disappeared while trying to hold on, and how to stop abandoning yourself for people who never truly saw your value. Because perhaps this was never just a story about losing someone else. Perhaps this has always been the story of finding your way back to yourself. You are not attached to them. You are attached to the hope they gave you. Sometimes the hardest thing to let go of is not the person. It is the hope. It is the picture you created inside your mind. It is the dream you kept protecting, even after reality kept hurting you. You are not only holding on to who they are, you are holding on to who you believed they could become. And that is why the pain feels so heavy. Because when you try to walk away, it does not feel like you are only leaving a person behind. It feels like you are leaving behind all the wishes, all the memories, all the plans, and all the quiet dreams your heart built around them. Maybe in the beginning they made you feel special. Maybe they spoke to you in a soft way. Maybe they gave you attention at a time when your heart was lonely. Maybe they noticed little things about you that no one else noticed. Maybe they made you feel chosen, understood, wanted, or important. And because those moments felt so warm, your heart started to believe, maybe this is the person who will finally love me the way I need. But sometimes a few beautiful moments can make the mind ignore many painful signs. This is where attachment quietly begins. It does not always begin with deep love. Sometimes it begins with a small amount of care given to a heart that has been waiting too long to feel seen. When someone gives you just enough kindness to make you believe, but not enough honesty to make you feel safe, your mind becomes trapped. You are not fully happy, but you are not fully ready to leave. You are not at peace, but you keep hoping peace will come later. You are hurt by their actions, but you keep remembering their sweet words. One day they are warm, and your heart feels alive again. The next day they are distant, and your mind begins searching for what went wrong. One day they make you feel like you matter. The next day they make you feel like you are asking for too much. One moment they come close, then they pull away, and slowly, your heart becomes addicted to waiting for their good side to return. You begin to live for the small moments, a message, a smile, a kind word, a little attention, a short reply, a small sign that maybe they still care. And because these moments feel good, you forget how much pain you feel in between them. This is why it becomes so hard to let go. You are not attached to their silence. You are attached to the time they made you feel heard. You are not attached to their coldness. You are attached to the memory of when they were warm. You are not attached to their neglect. You are attached to the hope that one day they will become the person they seemed to be in the beginning. Your mind keeps saying, maybe the old version of them will come back. Your heart keeps saying, maybe I should wait a little longer. Your pain keeps saying, this is hurting me. But your hope keeps answering, Maybe tomorrow will be different. This is how people stay trapped for months, sometimes even years, not because they do not see the truth, but because hope makes the truth feel harder to accept. Buddhist wisdom teaches us to see things as they are, not as we wish them to be. This is one of the deepest steps toward freedom, because the mind often wants to decorate reality. It takes small signs and turns them into big meanings. It takes one kind message and forgets 10 painful days. It takes one sweet memory and uses it to cover many moments of disrespect. But peace does not come from pretending. Peace comes from clear seeing. You must gently ask yourself, who is this person in my real life today? Not who they were in the beginning, not who they could become one day, not who you imagine them to be when you feel lonely, but who they are right now. How do they treat your heart now? Do they make you feel calm, safe, and respected? Or do they make you feel confused, anxious, and unsure of yourself? Do their actions match their words? Or do their words give you hope while their actions keep giving you pain? This question is important because many people fall in love with potential. Potential means loving what someone could be instead of accepting what they are showing you. Potential sounds beautiful. It whispers, they will change. It whispers, they just need time. It whispers, maybe your love will heal them. It whispers, maybe one day they will finally see your worth. But your life cannot be built on maybe. Your peace cannot depend on someone's possible future version. Your heart cannot keep breaking while waiting for another person to become kind, honest, or consistent. If someone truly values you, they will not make you feel like love is something you must earn every day. They will not make you beg for simple care. They will not keep you guessing where you stand. They will not only give effort when they feel you pulling away. They will not make you feel like your feelings are a problem. A person who values you may not be perfect, but they will not make you feel invisible. They may make mistakes, but they will care when they hurt you. They may be busy, but they will not make you feel forgotten. They may have their own struggles, but they will not use those struggles as a reason to keep breaking your peace. This is the difference between a person who is imperfect and a person who is careless with your heart. Everyone has flaws. Everyone has difficult days. Everyone has moments when they are tired or confused. But when someone repeatedly makes you feel unwanted, unheard, and unimportant, you must stop calling it a mistake. A pattern is not a mistake. A pattern is a message. And sometimes the message is simple. They may like your presence, but they do not value your heart enough to protect it. That truth may hurt, but it can also set you free. Because once you stop confusing hope with love, you begin to return to yourself. You begin to see that your heart was not wrong for caring. Your love was not foolish. Your kindness was not a weakness. You simply gave something precious to someone who did not know how to hold it with care. And now life is asking you to stop waiting for them to become the person your heart imagined. Life is asking you to see the real person standing in front of you, not with anger, not with hate, not with bitterness, but with calm honesty. Because when you see clearly, you suffer less. You stop chasing signs, you stop creating excuses. You stop turning small moments into proof of big love. You stop telling yourself a story that keeps your heart tied to pain. Sometimes you are not missing them. You are missing how you felt when you believed they were different. You are missing the hope that they would choose you fully. You are missing the dream where everything finally became beautiful. You are missing the version of the relationship that lived only in your imagination. And this is why letting go feels like grief. You are not only losing contact with someone, you are saying goodbye to an entire future you quietly built in your mind. You are letting go of the conversations you hoped would happen, the apology you waited for, the change you prayed for, the love you believed was coming, the day they would finally say, "I see your worth now." But your worth does not need to wait for that day. Your healing does not need their awakening. Your peace does not need their permission. There comes a moment when you must choose truth over hope. Not because hope is bad. Hope is beautiful when it gives life. But hope becomes painful when it keeps you tied to someone who keeps showing you that they are not ready to value you. Hope should not become a chain. Love should not become a prison. Waiting should not become your whole life. So ask yourself softly, without blaming yourself, am I holding on because this person truly loves me, or because I am afraid to let go of the dream I made about them? That question can open a door inside you. At first it may make you sad, but slowly it will make you free. Because the moment you understand that your attachment is built more on hope than reality, your heart begins to loosen its grip. You begin to breathe again. You begin to see again. You begin to remember that love should not only feel beautiful in your memories, it should feel safe in your present. It should not only exist in words, it should be shown through actions. It should not only appear when someone fears losing you, it should be steady enough that your heart does not have to keep shaking. And when you finally accept this, you stop begging the wrong person to become your peace. You stop waiting outside a closed door. You stop giving your whole heart to someone who only gives you small pieces of attention. You stop loving the dream more than you love yourself. That is the beginning of freedom. Not forgetting them overnight, not becoming cold, not pretending you never cared, but gently waking up from the story your pain and hope created together. And when you wake up, you will understand something deeply. You were not weak for holding on. You were human. You were hopeful. You wanted love to become real. But now you are becoming wise. And wisdom means learning to love yourself enough to stop waiting for someone who keeps proving that your heart is not safe in their hands. When you keep giving to someone who does not value you, you slowly lose yourself at first. You do not notice what is happening to you. You think you are only being kind. You think you are only being patient. You think you are only giving love because that is who you are. You tell yourself, maybe they are busy. You tell yourself, maybe they are tired. You tell yourself, maybe they do not know how much this hurts me. So you keep giving. You keep understanding. You keep waiting. You keep lowering your voice, hiding your pain, and making space for someone who rarely makes space for you. And slowly, without realizing it, you begin to move away from yourself. This is one of the quietest forms of suffering. It does not always look dramatic from the outside. People may still see you smiling. They may still see you working, talking, helping, and acting normal, but inside something begins to feel heavy. Your heart feels tired. Your mind feels restless. Your peace feels smaller than before. Because every time you give more to someone who gives less, a part of you begins to wonder, why am I the only one trying? And that question hurts deeply. Because love was never meant to feel like one person carrying the whole connection alone. Love was never meant to feel like you are standing outside someone's heart, knocking again and again, hoping they will finally open the door. When someone values you, you do not have to keep reminding them to care. You do not have to keep explaining why their silence hurts. You do not have to keep begging for simple respect. You do not have to keep making yourself smaller just so they feel comfortable. But when someone does not value you, even your basic needs start to feel like too much. You begin to feel guilty for asking for attention. You feel afraid to express your feelings. You think twice before saying what hurts you. You start choosing your words carefully, not because you want peace, but because you fear losing them. And this is where your self-loss begins. You stop being honest. You stop being open. You stop saying what your heart really feels. You start pretending that you are okay with things that are slowly breaking you. You accept half effort. You accept late replies. You accept cold behavior. You accept empty promises. You accept being remembered only when they need something from you. And because you care so much, you call it patience. But deep inside, your soul knows the truth. This is not patience anymore. This is pain. Patience brings peace to the heart. Self-abandonment brings anxiety. Patience feels calm. Self-abandonment feels like fear. Patience allows love to breathe. Self-abandonment makes you hold your breath, waiting for someone to choose you. There is a big difference between loving someone and losing yourself for someone. Love gives, but love also respects itself. Love understands, but love does not keep accepting harm. Love forgives, but love does not keep walking back into the same fire and calling it devotion. Buddhist wisdom teaches that compassion is beautiful, but compassion must have awareness. Without awareness, compassion can become a place where you keep hurting yourself in the name of love. You may think, if I am more loving, maybe they will change. You may think, if I am more patient, maybe they will finally see my heart. You may think, if I keep giving, maybe one day they will understand my worth. But dear heart, your love cannot make someone value what they are not ready to value. Your kindness cannot force someone to become mature. Your loyalty cannot teach someone respect if they keep choosing comfort over care. Sometimes people know exactly how good you are to them. They know you are loyal. They know you forgive. They know you will answer. They know you will understand. They know you will stay longer than most people would. And because they know this, they begin to treat your love like something that will always be there. They stop being careful with your heart. They stop appreciating your effort. They stop noticing your pain. They become comfortable receiving from you without asking what it costs you. And this is how good hearts get drained. Not by one big betrayal, but by small moments of being ignored again and again, a message left unanswered, a feeling dismissed, a promise forgotten, a need treated like a burden, a wound covered with "you are overthinking," a heart made to feel guilty for wanting basic care. Over time, these small things become heavy. They collect inside you, and one day you realize you are not the same person anymore. You used to laugh more easily. You used to feel lighter. You used to trust your own feelings. You used to believe your presence mattered. But now you keep questioning yourself. You wonder if you are too sensitive. You wonder if you are asking for too much. You wonder if you should just stay quiet to keep the connection alive. This is the danger of giving yourself to someone who never truly values you. You do not only lose peace, you begin to lose your own voice. You begin to lose your own standards. You begin to lose the natural confidence that once lived inside you. You stop asking, is this person good for my soul? And you only ask, how can I make them stay? That is the moment attachment becomes suffering. Because when your whole energy is focused on keeping someone else, you forget to keep yourself. You forget that your heart also needs care. You forget that your feelings also matter. You forget that your peace is not something small. You forget that love should not require you to disappear. Many people do not realize how much they have lost until they finally step away. At first, distance feels painful. It feels strange. It feels lonely, because you are used to giving them your attention. You are used to checking their mood. You are used to thinking about what they are doing. You are used to waiting for them to show some sign that you still matter. But slowly, when you stop feeding the connection with your whole energy, something begins to return. Your breath becomes softer. Your mind becomes clearer. Your heart begins to hear itself again. You start remembering the person you were before you became attached to someone who made you feel unworthy. And that remembering is sacred, because healing is not only about letting someone go. Healing is also about finding yourself again after giving too much of your soul away. Buddhist wisdom reminds us that attachment often hides behind beautiful words. We say, I love them, but sometimes what we really mean is, I am afraid to be without them. We say, I care too much, but sometimes what we really mean is, I have forgotten how to care for myself. We say, I cannot let go. But sometimes what we really mean is, I do not know who I am without trying to be chosen by them. This is why awareness matters. Awareness helps you see the difference between love and fear. Love says, I care about you, but I will not destroy myself for you. Fear says, I will accept anything as long as you do not leave. Love says, I want you in my life, but not at the cost of my peace. Fear says, even if I am hurting, I will stay because losing you feels worse. Love feels open. Fear feels tight. Love brings dignity. Fear makes you beg silently. Love allows you to stand in your truth. Fear makes you bend yourself into shapes that do not feel natural. When you keep giving to someone who does not value you, you may begin to think that love means endless sacrifice. But true love does not ask you to bleed quietly. True love does not ask you to break your own heart to keep another person comfortable. True love does not ask you to betray yourself so someone else can keep taking from you. A connection should not make you feel like your needs are too heavy. It should not make you feel like respect is a reward. It should not make you feel like kindness is something you receive only when the other person feels like giving it. You deserve a love that feels steady. You deserve people who notice your effort. You deserve people who do not need to lose you before they understand your value. You deserve to be around hearts that do not treat your loyalty like a weakness. But before the right people can value you, you must stop offering full access to people who do not. This does not mean you become cruel. It does not mean you hate them. It does not mean you wish them pain. It simply means you stop allowing their lack of care to become your daily suffering. You can be kind and still have limits. You can be soft and still say no. You can love someone and still step back. You can forgive someone and still choose distance. You can wish someone well and still stop giving them the power to hurt you again. This is not coldness. This is wisdom. This is the kind of strength that grows when a person finally understands, my heart is gentle, but it is not a place for careless hands. There comes a moment when you must stop asking why they do not value you and start asking why you keep offering yourself to a place where you are not valued, not with shame, not with self-blame, but with honest love for yourself. Because sometimes the deepest pain is not that someone failed to choose you. The deepest pain is realizing how many times you failed to choose yourself while waiting for them. You chose their feelings over your truth. You chose their comfort over your peace. You chose their small attention over your self-respect. You chose their possible love over your present pain. But now you can choose differently. You can choose to stop giving your whole heart to people who only give you confusion. You can choose to stop explaining your worth to someone who keeps acting blind to it. You can choose to stop chasing warmth from a person who keeps leaving you in the cold. You can choose to return to yourself. And returning to yourself does not happen all at once. It begins with small, quiet decisions. You stop replying immediately to someone who only reaches out when it suits them. You stop over-explaining your feelings to someone who never tries to understand. You stop accepting words that are not supported by actions. You stop giving second chances that feel like the same pain wearing a new face. You stop calling disrespect a misunderstanding. You stop calling neglect a busy schedule. You stop calling emotional hunger love. And each time you do this, your soul becomes a little stronger. Your peace returns little by little. Your self-respect stands up again. You begin to feel that you are not empty without them. You were only exhausted from giving too much. You were not weak. You were drained. You were not unlovable. You were unprotected. You were not asking for too much. You were asking the wrong person. And when this truth enters your heart, you stop looking at yourself through their neglect. You stop letting their inability to value you become the mirror of your worth. You begin to understand that your love was real, but your place in their life was not safe. And once you see this clearly, something powerful happens. You no longer want to keep proving your heart. You no longer want to keep waiting for crumbs. You no longer want to keep losing sleep over someone who sleeps peacefully without considering your pain. You no longer want to keep breaking yourself to keep a connection alive. Because the connection may survive when you abandon yourself, but you will not. And no connection is worth losing your own soul. So if you have been giving too much to someone who never values you, pause, breathe. Listen to the quiet part of you that has been asking for peace. That part is not trying to destroy your love. It is trying to save your life from becoming a place of endless waiting. You do not have to stop caring in one day. You do not have to become strong overnight. You only have to begin seeing the truth. Every time you choose yourself, the attachment becomes weaker. Every time you protect your peace, your heart becomes safer. Every time you refuse to accept less than respect, you teach yourself that your life matters too. And this is where healing begins. Not when they finally value you, but when you finally stop abandoning yourself for someone who does not. Your mind mistakes familiar pain for love. Sometimes the reason you cannot let go is not because the person is truly good for your heart. Sometimes it is because the pain feels familiar, and what feels familiar can feel powerful, even when it is not peaceful. This is one of the deepest tricks of the mind. The mind does not always choose what is healthy. Many times, the mind chooses what it already knows. If you have spent years trying to earn love, then someone who makes you chase may feel strangely important to you. If you have often felt ignored, then someone who gives you little attention and then pulls away may feel like a story your heart already understands. If you have been made to feel not enough before, then a person who makes you prove your worth may awaken an old wound inside you. And because that wound is old, it feels deep. You may think, this connection is special. But sometimes what feels deep is not love. Sometimes it is an old pain being touched again. You are not only reacting to this person, you are reacting to every time you felt unseen, every time you felt unwanted, every time you waited for someone to choose you, every time you gave your best and still felt replaceable. This is why their silence hurts so much. It is not only the silence of today. It feels like every silence you have ever survived. This is why their distance feels so heavy. It is not only their distance. It feels like every person who ever made you feel like you had to beg for love. And when old wounds are touched, the mind becomes confused. It starts calling pain love. It starts calling anxiety passion. It starts calling emotional confusion a deep connection. It starts calling chasing devotion. It starts calling fear attachment. It starts calling suffering loyalty. But Buddhist wisdom teaches us to slow down and look clearly. Not every strong feeling is love. Not every person who stays in your mind belongs in your life. Not every emotional pull is a sign that you should keep holding on. Sometimes the pull is not from your soul. Sometimes it is from your wound. A wound always wants to finish the story differently. It says, this time, maybe they will choose me. It says this time, maybe I will be enough. It says this time, maybe the person who makes me feel small will finally see my value. So you keep trying, you give more, you stay longer, you forgive faster. You explain your pain in softer words. You become more careful. You become more silent. You become more patient than you should have to be. And deep inside, you are not only trying to save the relationship, you are trying to heal the old part of you that still wants to be chosen. This is why familiar pain can feel like love, because it gives your old wound a chance to win. If they finally value you, maybe every past rejection will hurt less. If they finally choose you, maybe you will finally feel enough. If they finally come back with love, maybe the waiting will feel worth it. But, dear heart, someone else's love cannot heal the place where you abandoned yourself. Another person choosing you cannot replace the need to choose yourself. Their attention may comfort you for a moment, but it will not heal the wound that keeps making you chase people who do not treat you gently. This is why awareness is so important. Awareness means you begin to notice what is happening inside you. You notice how your body feels when they ignore you. You notice how your mind starts creating stories when they become distant. You notice how quickly you blame yourself when they change their mood. You notice how one small message from them can make you forget days of pain. You notice how their little kindness feels like medicine, even when they are also the source of the wound. And slowly you begin to understand. This is not peace, this is a cycle of hope, a cycle of waiting, a cycle of being hurt, then being comforted by the same person who hurt you, a cycle of feeling empty, then feeling alive again when they give you a small sign. This kind of connection can become addictive, not because it is healthy, but because it is uncertain. When someone is always kind, steady, and respectful, your heart feels safe. But when someone is hot and cold, your mind becomes obsessed. You start watching every change. You start reading every word. You start wondering what every silence means. You start waiting for the next moment of warmth, and when it finally comes, it feels bigger than it really is. A simple reply feels like love. A small compliment feels like hope. A short conversation feels like proof that they care. But then they pull away again, and your heart falls again. This is not love bringing you peace. This is uncertainty training your mind to chase relief. The person becomes like a storm and an umbrella at the same time. They create the confusion. Then they give you a little comfort. They make you feel unwanted. Then they give you a small moment of attention. They make you feel anxious. Then they make you feel calm for a little while. And because they also give you moments of relief, your mind starts believing they are your peace. But they are not your peace if you keep losing yourself around them. They are not your home if you feel unsafe in their presence. They are not your person if loving them makes you feel smaller, weaker, and more afraid. Real love does not keep your nervous system in survival mode. Real love does not make you check your phone with a heavy heart. Real love does not make you rehearse your words because you are scared of being too much. Real love does not make you feel like your worth depends on someone's mood. Real love may have challenges, but it does not make you live in constant emotional hunger. This is why Buddhist wisdom teaches detachment. Detachment does not mean you stop feeling. It means you stop being controlled by what you feel. It means you can notice the longing without obeying it. It means you can miss someone without running back to them. It means you can remember the good moments without using them as a reason to accept more pain. It means you can say, "My heart is pulling me, but my wisdom is guiding me." That is a powerful moment, because for a long time, your feelings may have been driving your life. If you missed them, you messaged them. If you felt lonely, you checked on them. If you felt scared, you lowered your standards. If they gave you attention, you forgot your pain. But healing begins when you stop letting every feeling become an action. You can feel sadness and still choose peace. You can feel love and still choose distance. You can feel longing and still choose self-respect. You can feel the old wound calling you back and still say, "No, I will not return to what keeps hurting me." This is not easy, but it is freedom. Because the mind will try to convince you that familiar pain is safer than unknown peace. It will say, "At least you know this person." It will say, "At least you understand this kind of hurt." It will say, "What if no one else loves you?" It will say, "What if walking away means being alone?" But sometimes being alone is not the real fear. The real fear is meeting yourself without the distraction of someone else. The real fear is sitting with your own heart and hearing how tired it has been. The real fear is realizing that you have been using this person to avoid the deeper pain inside you. But that deeper pain does not need to be feared. It needs to be held. It needs your attention. It needs your kindness. It needs your own love. Because the part of you that keeps chasing people who do not value you is not foolish. It is wounded. It is asking for safety. It is asking for proof that it matters. It is asking to finally feel chosen. But the mistake is expecting the wrong person to give that proof. You must become the person who chooses you. You must become the safe place your heart keeps searching for in others. You must learn to sit with yourself and say, I do not need to win love from someone who keeps making me question myself. This is where the old pattern begins to break. The first time you do not chase, it will hurt. The first time you do not explain, it will feel strange. The first time you do not answer immediately, your mind may panic. The first time you choose silence instead of begging, your heart may feel empty, but that emptiness is not failure. It is space. It is the space where your old attachment is losing control. It is the space where your self-respect is slowly returning. It is the space where peace is learning how to enter your life. You may have confused pain with love because pain was what you knew. But you can learn a new way. You can learn that love does not need to feel like chasing. You can learn that care does not need to feel uncertain. You can learn that peace is not boring. Peace is safe. Peace is gentle. Peace is steady. Peace is a place where your heart can rest without always preparing for the next hurt. And when you begin to taste that kind of peace, the old chaos will no longer feel romantic. The mixed signals will no longer feel exciting. The silence will no longer feel mysterious. The distance will no longer feel like something you must solve. You will begin to see it for what it is: a lack of care, a lack of consistency, a lack of respect. And when you see it clearly, you will stop making excuses for it. This is not bitterness. This is awakening. You are waking up from the idea that love must hurt to be real. You are waking up from the belief that being chosen by a careless person will make you worthy. You are waking up from the cycle of giving your power to someone who only knows how to keep you waiting. Buddhist wisdom reminds us that the mind can create a whole world from attachment. It can take one person and make them feel like your only source of happiness. It can make you believe life will become empty without them. It can make you forget that before they came, you had a life. You had breath, you had dreams, you had light, you had a self. And after they leave, that self is still there. Maybe tired, maybe hurt, maybe quieter than before, but still there, waiting for you to come back. So when you feel drawn to someone who never valued you, do not only ask, do I love them? Ask, what part of me feels unsafe without them? Ask, what old wound are they touching? Ask, am I choosing this person, or am I trying to prove something through them? Ask, does this connection bring me peace, or does it keep me living in fear? These questions are not meant to judge you. They are meant to free you. Because once you understand the pattern begins to lose power. Once you see that familiar pain is not love, you stop worshipping it. Once you realize that anxiety is not passion, you stop chasing it. Once you understand that confusion is not destiny, you stop waiting for it to become peace. And slowly, you begin to choose differently. You choose people who do not make your heart beg. You choose spaces where your truth is welcome. You choose relationships where care is not a rare gift. You choose yourself, not because you stopped loving others, but because you finally learned that love should include you too. This is the golden lesson. Sometimes the person you cannot release is not the love of your life. Sometimes they are the mirror of a wound that is asking to be healed. And the moment you stop trying to heal that wound through them, you begin to heal it within yourself. That is when the attachment starts to weaken. That is when your mind becomes clear. That is when your heart stops calling pain love. And that is when you begin to understand that the love you were begging from them was the love you needed to return to yourself. You keep waiting for closure, but their actions already gave it to you. One of the biggest reasons people keep holding on to someone who never valued them is because they are waiting for closure. They are waiting for that one final conversation, that one honest explanation, that one message that says, "I understand how much I hurt you." That one apology that finally makes sense of everything. They think, if I could just understand why they did this, maybe I could move on. If they could just admit they were wrong, maybe my heart could rest. If they could finally tell me the truth, maybe I could let go. And because of this, they keep waiting. Days become weeks, weeks become months, months become years. Part of their life remains stuck in a story that already ended, because they believe closure is something another person must give them. But Buddhist wisdom teaches something different. It teaches that waiting for what may never come is another form of attachment. Sometimes we suffer more from waiting for answers than from the original pain itself. The truth is, not everyone will explain why they hurt you. Not everyone will apologize. Not everyone will become self-aware enough to understand what they did. Not everyone will have the courage to look at the damage they caused. Some people simply move on. Some avoid responsibility. Some convince themselves they did nothing wrong. Some never even realize the depth of your pain. And this is one of the hardest truths for the human heart to accept. Because deep inside, we believe that if we loved someone sincerely, they should at least care enough to acknowledge our wounds. We think our pain deserves recognition. We think our tears deserve an explanation. We think our loyalty deserves honesty. And perhaps it does. But life is not always fair in the way we hope it will be. Sometimes the apology never arrives. Sometimes the explanation never comes. Sometimes the person who hurt you becomes the least capable person of helping you understand your pain. And this is where many people become trapped. They replay conversations over and over in their minds. They imagine what they wish they had said. They create imaginary arguments, imaginary reconciliations, imaginary apologies. They think about what they should have done differently, what they could have changed, whether they were too much, whether they were not enough. They revisit old messages. They search for hidden meanings. They study every memory like detectives trying to solve a mystery, as if finding one missing piece of information will finally free them. But often, the answer they seek has already been given, not through words, through actions. They disappeared when you needed them. That was an answer. They knew they hurt you and made no effort to change. That was an answer. They repeatedly ignored your feelings. That was an answer. They made promises but never followed through. That was an answer. They only remembered your value when they feared losing access to you. That was an answer. They watched you cry. They saw your confusion. They knew you were hurting. And still, nothing changed. That was an answer. Sometimes closure is hidden inside repeated behavior. The heart struggles to accept this because actions do not provide the emotional ending we imagined. The heart wants softness. It wants understanding. It wants the person to finally say, "You mattered to me. You didn't deserve that. I was wrong. To see your pain now." But closure is not always beautiful. Sometimes closure is painful. Sometimes closure arrives quietly. Sometimes closure comes disguised as disappointment, because the reality you finally accept is not the reality you prayed for. You realize they are not who you believed they were. You realize they cannot give you what you need. You realize you have been asking healing from the same place where the wound was created. And suddenly something shifts inside you. You stop asking, "Why did they do this to me?" And you begin asking, "Why do I keep returning to someone who continues to show me who they are?" That question changes everything, because it brings your power back. As long as your healing depends on another person's apology, your peace remains in their hands. As long as your closure depends on their honesty, your future remains tied to their choices. As long as your freedom depends on them understanding your pain, you remain emotionally connected to someone who may never awaken. But your healing deserves more than waiting. Your life deserves more than waiting. Your peace deserves more than waiting. Buddhist wisdom reminds us that suffering grows when we argue with reality. Reality says, they are not coming back as the person you needed. Reality says, they may never understand your pain. Reality says, they may never become who you hoped they would be. And attachment replies, but maybe tomorrow. But maybe if I explain one more time. But maybe if they finally understand me. But maybe if I stay patient. This battle between reality and hope keeps the wound alive. It keeps the heart standing outside a closed door. It keeps the soul trapped between what is and what it wishes could be. But there comes a sacred moment, a quiet moment, a moment where you become tired. Not angry, not bitter, just tired. Tired of searching for answers from someone who keeps giving you silence. Tired of begging for understanding. Tired of trying to translate behavior that has already spoken clearly. Tired of abandoning your own peace while waiting for someone else's growth. And in that moment, you realize something profound. Closure is not something they give you. Closure is something you choose. Closure is deciding that you have seen enough. Closure is saying, I may never understand why, but I understand what it cost me. Closure is saying, I may never receive the apology I deserve, but I refuse to sacrifice more years waiting for it. Closure is saying, I wanted a different ending, but I accept the ending life has given me. Closure is choosing not to send another message. Closure is deleting the paragraph you wrote in your notes. Closure is putting down the phone. Closure is resisting the urge to check if they miss you. Closure is no longer making your worth dependent on whether they finally recognize it. Closure is allowing unanswered questions to remain unanswered, because not every question receives an explanation. Some questions simply teach us wisdom. You do not need to know why someone lacked the capacity to love you properly. You only need to know that they did. You do not need to understand every detail of their choices. You only need to understand how those choices affected your peace. You do not need their permission to move on. You do not need their agreement to heal. You do not need them to validate your pain. You lived it. You survived it. That is enough. Sometimes the most powerful sentence you can say is this: I do not understand why you hurt me, but I understand that I deserve better. That sentence carries both grief and freedom. It honors your pain without imprisoning you inside it. Because healing does not mean pretending you never cared. Healing means accepting that you cared deeply, but refusing to let unanswered questions steal the rest of your life. Perhaps the closure you have been chasing was never hidden inside another person's words. Perhaps it has been waiting inside your own acceptance. Acceptance that they hurt you. Acceptance that you wanted more. Acceptance that you deserved more. Acceptance that some people enter your life to teach you what love is not. Acceptance that not every ending arrives with understanding. Acceptance that your heart can continue beating beautifully, even without the explanation it once begged for. And maybe this is the deepest lesson of all. The person who broke your heart may never explain themselves. But they do not get to decide whether your story ends in suffering. You decide that. You decide whether you remain standing at a closed door, or whether you finally turn around and walk toward your own peace. Because closure was never about getting the perfect ending. It was about finally choosing yourself when the ending was imperfect. It was about saying, I release the need to understand everything. I release the need to be chosen by someone who could not value me. I release the hope that the past will rewrite itself, and I choose to stop waiting, not because it never mattered, not because it did not hurt, but because your life is too precious to spend it asking for answers from people who only taught you silence. And maybe, one day, you will look back and realize something beautiful. The closure you begged them to give you became the strength you learned to give yourself. And the moment you stopped waiting for them to free you, you finally became free. Holding on becomes suffering when it costs you your inner peace. There is nothing wrong with loving someone deeply. There is nothing wrong with caring. There is nothing wrong with remembering the people who once mattered to you. The human heart was never meant to be cold. It was made to connect. It was made to feel. It was made to love. So the problem is not that you still think about them. The problem is not that you still miss them sometimes. The problem is not even that a part of your heart still cares. The suffering begins when holding on starts costing you your peace. The suffering begins when one person slowly takes over the space inside your mind. When your happiness starts depending on whether they text you. When your mood changes based on how they treat you. When your entire day is shaped by their attention, their silence, their choices, and their presence or absence. This is where attachment quietly turns into suffering. At first it happens so slowly that you barely notice it. You wake up, and they are your first thought. You check your phone, hoping to see their name. You replay old conversations while brushing your teeth. You remember something they said months ago, and wonder what they really meant. You imagine future conversations that may never happen. You create stories about what they are doing. You wonder if they miss you. You wonder if they regret losing you. You wonder if they are thinking about you too. And before you realize it, you are no longer fully living your own life. You are living inside your thoughts about them. You are physically present in the world, but emotionally trapped somewhere between memory and imagination. Your body is here, but your mind is somewhere else. You are eating dinner while replaying old moments. You are sitting with family while secretly hoping they will message you. You are trying to work while wondering why they changed. You are walking through beautiful days while carrying invisible conversations inside your head. This is the suffering Buddhist wisdom speaks about, not simply pain, but the suffering created when the mind refuses to release what it can no longer control. Pain itself is natural. When someone disappoints you, pain is natural. When someone leaves, pain is natural. When someone you trusted hurts you, pain is natural. Even the Buddha never taught that pain could be avoided completely. But suffering becomes deeper when we hold tightly to pain and make it our home. Suffering grows every time we replay the same wound, every time we reopen the same memory, every time we ask the same question without receiving a different answer, every time we imagine another ending, every time we say, "What if? What if I had said something different? What if I had loved them better? What if I had been more patient? What if I had stayed quiet? What if I had fought harder? What if I had not walked away?" The mind loves these questions because it believes they can change the past. But no amount of overthinking can rewrite yesterday. No amount of worrying can change another person's choices. No amount of longing can force someone to become who they never chose to be. Yet many people spend years fighting battles inside their minds that reality ended long ago. This is exhausting. Not physically, soul-deep exhausting. Because carrying emotional attachment is heavy. It steals your energy. It steals your attention. It steals your joy. It steals your ability to be fully present. And perhaps the saddest part is that many people become so used to carrying this burden that they forget what peace even feels like. They forget what it feels like to wake up without anxiety. They forget what it feels like to enjoy a quiet evening without checking their phone. They forget what it feels like to laugh without secretly hurting. They forget what it feels like to simply exist without carrying someone else's emotional weight. Their suffering becomes normal, their restlessness becomes familiar, their pain becomes part of their identity. But dear heart, suffering was never meant to become your permanent home. You were not born to spend your entire life waiting. You were not born to sacrifice your peace for people who cannot protect it. You were not born to turn your heart into a prison built from memories. your inner peace matters more than you realize, because peace is not simply the absence of conflict. Peace is the ability to breathe freely inside your own life. Peace is waking up without fear. Peace is trusting yourself again. Peace is sitting alone without feeling abandoned. Peace is enjoying simple moments without your mind dragging you back into old pain. Peace is being present enough to notice sunlight through your window, the laughter of people you love, the taste of your morning tea, the beauty of ordinary life. Attachment often steals these moments, because attachment keeps whispering, "Not yet." You can be happy when they come back. You can rest when they finally understand. You can move on when they apologize. You can enjoy life when you receive closure. And suddenly, your entire happiness becomes postponed. You stop living today because your heart is waiting for tomorrow. But tomorrow is never guaranteed. This moment is. This breath is. This life is. Buddhist wisdom teaches us that clinging to what changes creates suffering. Everything changes. People change. Relationships change. Feelings change. Seasons change. Even the person you once were has changed. Trying to hold life perfectly still is like trying to hold water tightly in your hands. The harder you squeeze, the faster it slips away. And yet the mind keeps trying. It keeps saying, if I just hold on a little longer, if I love them a little harder, if I wait a little more, maybe. But maybe your peace deserves attention too. Maybe your tired heart deserves rest. Maybe your soul is not asking you to keep waiting. Maybe it is asking you to let go, not because the person meant nothing, but because your peace means something too. There comes a moment when you realize that the person may no longer be the greatest source of your suffering. The attachment itself has become the suffering, the endless checking, the endless wondering, the endless hoping, the endless remembering, the endless waiting. You become attached not only to them but to the pain they leave behind. And strangely, letting go of the suffering begins to feel frightening, because suffering has become familiar. You know who you are when you miss them. You know who you are when you wait. You know who you are when you replay memories. But who are you without the story? Who are you without the longing? Who are you without carrying someone else's absence every single day? This question can feel terrifying, but it can also become beautiful, because underneath all the attachment, there is still you. The version of you that existed before this pain. The version of you who laughed freely. The version of you who dreamed without fear. The version of you who did not need another person's attention to feel alive. That version of you never disappeared. They simply became buried beneath grief and longing. And healing is not about becoming someone new. It is about remembering who you were before suffering convinced you that peace was impossible. Little by little, you begin returning. You stop checking your phone every few minutes. You stop revisiting old messages. You stop searching for signs. You stop making their silence mean something about your worth. You stop feeding the story. And in the beginning, this feels uncomfortable, because the mind has become addicted to thinking about them. Silence feels strange. Stillness feels empty. Peace feels unfamiliar. But stay there. Do not run back to chaos simply because calm feels new. Give your heart time to remember that peace is safe. Give your mind time to stop searching for problems to solve. Give your soul permission to rest, because inner peace is not selfish. Protecting your peace is not selfish. Choosing yourself is not selfish. It is wisdom. It is understanding that no person, no matter how important they once were, deserves unlimited access to your mind if their presence destroys your ability to live. It is understanding that love should expand your life, not shrink it. It is understanding that your thoughts are precious. Your energy is precious. Your attention is precious. Your life is precious. And all of these things deserve protection. Perhaps the greatest tragedy is not losing someone who never valued you. Perhaps the greatest tragedy is losing years of your life thinking about someone who taught you suffering instead of peace. Missing sunsets because your mind was elsewhere. Missing laughter because your heart was waiting. Missing opportunities because your attention belonged to the past. Missing your own beautiful life because you were emotionally living inside someone else's choices. Do not let attachment steal any more of your tomorrows. You deserve to experience your own life fully. You deserve mornings that belong to you. You deserve nights that are peaceful. You deserve friendships that nourish you. You deserve love that feels steady. You deserve to wake up and realize that your heart is not a waiting room. You deserve to discover that happiness does not live inside another person's hands. It has been waiting quietly inside you all along. And maybe this is the deepest truth of all. You do not have to stop loving overnight. You do not have to erase every memory. You do not have to pretend they never mattered. You only have to stop sacrificing your peace at the altar of attachment. You only have to stop making another person's presence the condition for your happiness. You only have to stop abandoning the life happening right in front of you. Because life is still here, the sky is still beautiful. Your heart still beats. New people still exist. New joy still exists. New beginnings still exist. And peace is still possible. The moment you decide that your inner peace matters as much as the love you keep giving away, something extraordinary begins to happen. You breathe deeper, you smile more easily, you notice beauty again, you become present again, you remember yourself again, and slowly, the person who once occupied every corner of your mind becomes smaller, not because they never mattered, but because your peace finally matters too. That is freedom, that is healing, that is the wisdom of letting go. Not choosing numbness over love, but choosing peace over suffering. And perhaps, after carrying so much for so long, that peace is the love your heart has been searching for all along. Letting go does not mean they were meaningless. One of the biggest fears people have when they try to let someone go is this: if I move on, does it mean they never mattered? If I stop crying, does it mean my love was not real? If I release them, does it mean everything we shared meant nothing? And because of these questions, many people continue holding on long after the relationship has stopped bringing them peace. Not because they want to suffer, but because they are afraid that letting go will erase the importance of what they felt. They think that if something touched their heart deeply, it must stay forever. They believe that if they truly loved someone, they should never stop missing them. They believe that moving on is a form of betrayal. But Buddhist wisdom gently teaches us something different. Letting go does not erase meaning. Letting go ends suffering. Letting go does not cancel love. Letting go changes your relationship with it. You can release someone and still honor what they meant to you. You can move forward and still appreciate what they taught you. You can stop carrying their absence and still acknowledge that they once mattered. Not every meaningful person is meant to remain in your life forever. This truth is painful, but it is also beautiful, because life itself is built on impermanence. The flowers bloom, then they fall. The seasons arrive, then they change. Morning becomes evening. Children become adults. People enter our lives. People leave. Everything moves. Everything changes. Nothing stays exactly the same. And yet, we often expect love to be the one thing that never changes. We hold tightly to people because we fear that if they leave, the meaning leaves too. But meaning is not lost simply because something ends. Think about a beautiful sunset. It lasts only for a short time, yet it still moves your heart. Think about a song that lasts only a few minutes. It still has the power to bring tears to your eyes. Think about childhood memories. They no longer exist in the present moment, but they still shaped who you became. Their temporary nature does not make them meaningless. In the same way, a relationship can be important without being permanent. A person can touch your soul without staying in your story forever. Sometimes people enter your life to awaken something inside you. Some teach you how deeply you can love. Some teach you how much you are willing to sacrifice. Some teach you the beauty of connection. Some teach you where your boundaries need strengthening. Some reveal your wounds. Some reveal your strength. Some show you what love looks like. Others show you what love is not. But every person leaves something behind: a lesson, a memory, a truth, a deeper understanding of yourself. And perhaps that was their purpose. The heart struggles with this because it wants certainty, it wants guarantees, it wants forever. It wants to believe that if something felt important, it should never end. But Buddhist wisdom reminds us that attachment often comes from trying to freeze life exactly as it is. We want moments to last forever. We want people to stay exactly the same. We want happiness without change. But life keeps moving, and suffering begins when we resist that movement. You may still remember the way they laughed, the conversations that lasted late into the night, the dreams you built together, the moments when they made you feel understood, the comfort of their presence, the excitement of believing they would stay. Those memories do not disappear simply because you choose peace. You do not have to destroy the beautiful parts in order to heal from the painful parts. You do not have to turn them into a villain to justify your healing. You do not have to hate them to let them go. This is where many people become trapped. They think healing means choosing between two extremes. Either they were perfect and I should keep holding on, or they meant nothing and I should erase every memory. But real healing lives in the middle. Real healing says, you mattered to me, and you also hurt me. We shared beautiful moments, and this relationship no longer brings me peace. I appreciate what was real, and I accept that it is over. This kind of acceptance requires courage, because it allows complexity. It allows grief without bitterness. It allows gratitude without attachment. It allows love without self-destruction. It allows memory without imprisonment. Perhaps one of the deepest forms of maturity is realizing that two truths can exist at the same time. You can love someone and know they are not good for your future. You can miss someone and understand they are not healthy for your peace. You can appreciate what they gave you and still recognize what they took from you. You can thank them for the lesson and still close the door behind them. You can carry compassion without carrying attachment. And this changes everything, because instead of asking, why did this happen to me? You begin asking, what was this experience trying to teach me? Maybe they taught you that your heart is capable of loving deeply. Maybe they taught you that you deserve consistency. Maybe they showed you the places where you abandoned yourself to keep others happy. Maybe they helped you discover the difference between longing and genuine love. Maybe they revealed how much you feared being alone. Maybe they taught you that self-respect is just as important as devotion. Maybe they entered your life not to complete your story, but to transform it. Not every person is meant to be your destination. Some people are bridges. Some people are mirrors. Some people are teachers disguised as heartbreak. At first, this realization can make you cry, because you wanted forever. You wanted them. You wanted the future you imagined. You wanted all the promises your heart created in quiet moments. You wanted the story to end differently. And grieving that dream is natural. Do not rush yourself through it. Do not shame yourself for mourning. Do not pretend it never mattered. Grief is love learning to live without what it once held. And grief deserves tenderness. But grief should not become your permanent home, because there comes a time when honoring the memory becomes different from living inside it. You stop replaying every detail. You stop asking endless questions. You stop waiting for the impossible. Instead, you carry the lesson forward. You allow the experience to make you wiser instead of harder. You become softer toward yourself. more honest with your needs, more protective of your peace, more aware of what genuine love looks like. This is one of the hidden gifts of letting go. It teaches discernment. It teaches wisdom. It teaches you how to recognize relationships that nourish your soul instead of draining it. It teaches you that chemistry is not the same as compatibility. Intensity is not the same as intimacy. Longing is not the same as love. And sacrifice is not proof of worth. You begin to understand that the deepest love is not always the loudest. Sometimes the deepest love is calm, consistent, respectful, safe. Sometimes real love feels less like fireworks and more like coming home. And if you keep holding tightly to people who cannot offer that kind of love, your hands remain too full to receive it when it arrives. That is another reason letting go matters. Not because the past was meaningless, but because your future deserves space. You cannot embrace what is meant for you while clinging desperately to what has already ended. You cannot receive new peace while worshipping old pain. You cannot discover who you are becoming if you remain devoted to who you were. Life is constantly inviting you into new chapters, but attachment keeps rereading the same page. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is close the chapter with gratitude. Not resentment, not denial. Gratitude. You say, "Thank you for the moments of joy. Thank you for the lessons I never wanted but needed. Thank you for helping me discover parts of myself I had ignored. Thank you for teaching me that love without self-respect becomes suffering. And thank you for showing me that I deserve peace too." Then, with tears in your eyes and compassion in your heart, you release what no longer belongs in your hands. Not because it was worthless, but because your life is too precious to remain trapped in yesterday. Perhaps this is the deepest misunderstanding about letting go. People think letting go means forgetting. But forgetting is not the goal. Remembering differently is. Instead of remembering with desperation, you remember with understanding. Instead of remembering with longing, you remember with gratitude. Instead of remembering through the eyes of loss, you remember through the eyes of growth. You stop asking, "Why couldn't they stay?" and begin asking, "How did this experience shape me into who I am becoming?" Slowly, your pain transforms. It no longer feels like punishment. It becomes wisdom. It becomes compassion. It becomes strength. It becomes part of your story without becoming your identity. Because you are more than what you lost. You are more than who left. You are more than the relationships that ended. You are a living, growing soul. And life is still unfolding before you. There are still sunsets you have not seen, people you have not met, joy you have not experienced, peace you have not discovered, versions of yourself you have not yet become. Do not stay trapped in the doorway of what has already passed. Walk forward carrying the lessons, not the chains. Carry the love, not the suffering. Carry the gratitude, not the attachment. Because letting go does not mean they were meaningless. It means you finally understand that something can be meaningful without being permanent. It means you can treasure what was beautiful without sacrificing what is possible. It means you can honor the chapter without refusing to turn the page. And maybe that is one of the most beautiful forms of wisdom. To say, "You mattered, you changed me, you taught me, but my journey does not end with you. I release you with gratitude. And now, with an open heart, I choose to continue living." That is not betrayal, that is healing, that is freedom, and that is love growing wise. Your worth was never meant to be proven to the wrong person. One of the most painful things that happens when someone does not value you is that, little by little, you begin to question your own worth. You stop asking, "Why are they treating me this way?" And you start asking, "What is wrong with me?" You wonder if you are too emotional, too sensitive, too needy, too much. You wonder if you loved too deeply, if you asked for too much, if you expected too much. You replay conversations in your mind, searching for mistakes. You think about the messages you sent, the words you used, The moments when you expressed your feelings. You ask yourself, should I have stayed quiet? Should I have been more patient? Should I have been easier to love? And without realizing it, you slowly place yourself on trial. You become both the wounded person and the judge. You examine every part of yourself, trying to understand why someone could not value you. Because deep down, many of us carry a hidden belief. A belief that says, if I can just become better, maybe they will finally choose me. If I become more attractive, maybe they will love me. If I become more understanding, maybe they will stay. If I sacrifice more, maybe they will see my worth. And this belief quietly steals your peace, because it teaches you that love must be earned, that your value depends on another person's approval, that you must constantly prove that you deserve kindness. But Buddhist wisdom gently reminds us of a truth we often forget. Your worth was never meant to be negotiated. Your worth was never meant to be earned through suffering. Your worth was never meant to be proven to someone who benefits from not seeing it. You were valuable before they entered your life. You were worthy before they noticed you. You were enough before they chose you. And you remain enough even if they walk away. The tragedy is that many beautiful souls spend years trying to convince the wrong people to recognize what was already there. They become performers instead of people. They become experts at pleasing others, experts at understanding, experts at giving, experts at staying, but strangers to themselves. They know exactly how to make others comfortable, but they no longer know what they need. They know how to save relationships, but they do not know how to save their own peace. Because somewhere along the way, they learned that being loved meant becoming whatever other people wanted. Perhaps as a child, you learned that love came through achievement. Perhaps you learned that being good meant being accepted. Perhaps you learned to avoid conflict because losing connection felt dangerous. Perhaps you discovered that if you were helpful enough, quiet enough, useful enough, people stayed. And so you carried this lesson into adulthood. You became the person who always understood, the person who always forgave, the person who always gave another chance, the person who stayed even when your own heart was breaking. Because a part of you believed that if you could just be enough for others, you would finally feel worthy. But dear heart, worthiness does not come from being chosen. It comes from recognizing what has always existed within you. Think about the sun. The sun does not ask the world for permission to shine. It does not become brighter when people admire it. It does not lose its light when clouds cover it. Its nature remains the same. And your worth is like that. People's opinions may hide it. Their rejection may make you forget it. Their inability to appreciate you may cause you to doubt it. But none of these things have the power to destroy it. A flower does not become less beautiful because one person walks past without noticing it. A priceless painting does not lose its value because someone lacks the wisdom to understand art. A diamond does not become ordinary because it was placed in careless hands. In the same way, your value does not disappear simply because someone failed to recognize it. Their inability to see you clearly says more about their capacity than your worth. This realization changes everything because you stop chasing validation. You stop trying to convince people to love you properly. You stop explaining your value to those committed to misunderstanding you. You stop shrinking yourself to fit into spaces that cannot hold who you truly are. You stop turning yourself into a project that must constantly improve to earn basic respect. And instead, you begin asking different questions. Not, how can I make them choose me? But, why am I trying so hard to be chosen by someone who cannot value what I naturally bring? Not, what is wrong with me? But, what has made me believe I must prove my worth to receive love? Not, how can I become enough? But, when did I start believing I wasn't enough to begin with? These questions are powerful because they shift your attention away from the person who hurt you and bring it back to the relationship you have with yourself. Buddhist wisdom teaches that much of our suffering comes from mistaken identity. We confuse ourselves with temporary experiences. We believe we are our failures, our heartbreak, our rejection, our losses. We begin identifying with the way others treat us. If someone abandons us, we believe we are unworthy. If someone betrays us, we believe we are unlovable. If someone overlooks us, we believe we are invisible. But these experiences are not your identity. They are experiences. They happen to you. They are not you. You are not the person who was left behind. You are not the person who was not chosen. You are not the silence they gave you. You are not the confusion they created. You are not the role they assigned to you in their story. You are far greater than another person's inability to love wisely. You are a human being with dreams, with tenderness, with courage, with fears, with kindness, with light. And all of that remains true, regardless of who recognizes it. The wrong people often teach you to abandon yourself. They reward your silence. They benefit from your endless understanding. They become comfortable receiving your love without returning it equally. And because you fear losing them, you begin betraying your own needs. You stop speaking honestly. You tolerate disrespect. You explain away neglect. You settle for crumbs. You become grateful for tiny pieces of affection that should have been freely given. But love should never require self-betrayal. Love should never ask you to sacrifice your dignity. Love should never force you to choose between connection and self-respect. The right people will not require you to audition for a place in their hearts. They will not make you guess where you stand. They will not leave you starving for reassurance. They will not treat your emotions like inconveniences. They may not be perfect, but they will care. They will try. They will apologize. They will value your presence. They will protect your heart because they understand it is precious. And perhaps this is one of the most healing truths you can learn. You do not need everyone to see your value. You only need to stop giving authority over your worth to those who cannot. Not everyone has the eyes to recognize genuine kindness. Not everyone has the emotional maturity to appreciate loyalty. Not everyone has the capacity to receive the depth of love you offer. And that is not your failure. It simply means they are not your people. The Buddha taught that attachment to praise and fear of criticism create suffering. When your identity depends on external approval, your peace becomes fragile. One compliment lifts you up. One rejection destroys you. One person's affection becomes your source of happiness. One person's neglect becomes your source of despair. But freedom begins when you remember that your value is an inner truth, not a public vote, not a reward, not a prize someone grants you. It is inherent. It exists simply because you exist. This does not mean arrogance. It means self-respect. It means understanding that your humanity deserves care. It means refusing to participate in relationships that repeatedly teach you to doubt yourself. It means learning to walk away from places where your soul constantly feels unseen. There will be moments when you forget this, moments when rejection hurts, moments when you wonder why someone else was chosen, moments when old wounds whisper that perhaps you are still not enough. Be gentle with yourself during those moments. Place your hand over your heart and remember, you have never needed another person's permission to matter. You have never needed another person's approval to be worthy of love. You have never needed another person's recognition to justify your existence. The love you keep searching for in other people's eyes cannot replace the respect you owe yourself, because the day you finally understand your own worth, something remarkable happens. You stop begging, you stop chasing, you stop explaining, you stop proving, you stop performing, you stop fighting for tiny pieces of affection from people unwilling to give more. You become quieter, calmer, stronger. You no longer need to convince others of your value because you have stopped arguing with it yourself. You begin protecting your energy. You begin choosing relationships that nourish rather than drain you. You begin honoring your needs instead of apologizing for them. You begin walking away from what diminishes you, not from anger, but from love. Love for your own peace, love for your own dignity, love for the person you are becoming. And perhaps this is the golden truth hidden beneath all your heartbreak. The people who could not value you were never assigned the responsibility of defining you. That responsibility belongs to you. You decide whether rejection becomes proof of unworthiness or an invitation to deeper self-respect. You decide whether another person's blindness causes you to forget your light. You decide whether you continue chasing those who overlook you or begin choosing those who celebrate your presence. Most importantly, you decide whether you will finally stand beside yourself instead of abandoning yourself in the hope of being chosen. Because the greatest love story of your life begins the moment you stop proving your worth to the wrong person and start remembering that you were worthy all along. You were never too much. You were never not enough. You were simply trying to receive extraordinary love from people who only knew how to offer ordinary attention. And now, with wisdom in your heart and compassion for your own journey, you can finally stop asking, "Why didn't they value me?" and begin saying, "I know my value now, and I will never ask anyone to teach me to forget it again." The moment you choose yourself, their power over you begins to fade. There comes a moment in every healing journey that does not look dramatic from the outside. There is no loud music, no perfect speech, no sudden miracle, no magical morning where you wake up and forget everything. Instead, it happens quietly, almost unnoticed. It happens after you become tired. Not tired in your body, tired in your soul, tired of waiting, tired of hoping, tired of checking your phone, tired of replaying old conversations, tired of giving chances that lead to the same pain, tired of carrying someone who no longer carries you, tired of making excuses for behavior that continues to break your heart. You become tired of abandoning yourself, and strangely, that tiredness becomes sacred, because it is often the beginning of awakening. For a long time, your energy was flowing in one direction, toward them, toward their attention, toward their approval, toward their affection, toward the hope that one day they would finally become who you needed them to be. You shaped your days around their presence. You shaped your emotions around their choices. You shaped your worth around how they treated you. Without realizing it, you handed them power. The power to affect your mood, the power to determine your peace, the power to decide whether you felt wanted or rejected, the power to shape the story you told yourself about who you were. And maybe you never intended to do that. You simply loved. You hoped. You waited. You believed. But slowly, their presence became larger than your own. Their needs mattered more than yours. Their feelings mattered more than yours. Their comfort mattered more than your truth. And in trying to keep them close, you drifted away from yourself. But one day, something changes. You realize that no matter how much you sacrifice, you cannot force another person to value what they refuse to see. You realize that no amount of waiting can turn inconsistency into commitment. You realize that love cannot survive if it requires you to disappear. And you ask yourself a question you may have avoided for a very long time. What about me? What about my peace? What about my dreams? What about my exhausted heart? What about the life I stopped living while waiting for someone else to choose me? And perhaps, for the first time in a long time, you turn your attention inward. You choose yourself, not out of anger, not out of revenge, not because you stopped caring, but because you finally started caring about yourself too. This is the moment their power begins to fade, not because they changed, but because you changed your relationship with the attachment. You stop chasing. You stop explaining. You stop trying to convince them to understand your pain. You stop trying to prove your worth. You stop asking someone else to complete a lesson that only you can finish. At first, this feels uncomfortable, because attachment has become familiar. You are used to reaching for them. You are used to checking. You are used to wondering. You are used to feeding the story. When you stop, your hands feel empty. Your mind feels restless. Your heart feels lonely. There may be nights when every part of you wants to go back. You want to send the message. You want to check their social media. You want to ask if they miss you. You want reassurance. You want proof that you mattered. And during those moments, choosing yourself feels incredibly difficult, because choosing yourself is rarely one grand decision. It is 1,000 small decisions. It is deciding not to text them tonight. It is deciding not to reread old messages. It is deciding not to search for hidden meanings. It is deciding not to romanticize someone who repeatedly wounded your peace. It is deciding not to abandon your healing because loneliness whispers stories. Each small choice matters. Each small choice says, I matter too. Each small choice weakens the attachment. Each small choice strengthens your relationship with yourself. At first, it feels unnatural, because for so long your energy flowed outward. Now it must learn to return home. You begin noticing little things. You realize how quiet your mind becomes when you stop checking your phone. You notice how deeply you can breathe when you stop waiting. You notice how much energy you regain when you stop carrying unanswered questions. You notice how beautiful ordinary moments can be when they are no longer interrupted by longing. You notice the sunlight, the taste of your morning coffee, the laughter of a friend, the comfort of your own company. You begin remembering that life was always happening around you. You had simply stopped participating in it. You had become emotionally devoted to absence, but now, slowly, you return. This is one of the greatest gifts of healing. You stop chasing the version of yourself that only existed in relation to them, and you begin discovering who you are without the attachment. At first, this can feel frightening, because if you have spent months or years loving someone who never valued you, you may not remember who you were before the waiting began. Who are you without checking if they care? Who are you without hoping they return? Who are you without carrying their absence every day? Who are you without the story? These questions are not meant to scare you. They are invitations. Invitations back to yourself, back to your own desires, back to your own joy, back to your own wisdom, back to the parts of you that became quiet while you were trying to keep someone else's attention. Perhaps you loved painting. Perhaps you loved reading. Perhaps you laughed more. Perhaps you dreamed bigger. Perhaps you had goals that had nothing to do with being chosen. Those parts of you are still there, waiting patiently, waiting for you to return. And when you choose yourself, something beautiful begins to happen. You stop seeing loneliness as punishment. You begin seeing solitude as healing. You stop seeing boundaries as selfish. You begin seeing them as self-respect. You stop seeing letting go as failure. You begin seeing it as wisdom. You stop seeing peace as boring. You begin seeing it as sacred. You realize that calm is not emptiness. Consistency is not dullness. Stability is not weakness. Peace is not the absence of love. Peace is what love was always meant to protect. The Buddha taught that attachment creates suffering because we cling to what is constantly changing. But freedom is not becoming detached from life. Freedom is learning how to participate in life without losing yourself. It is loving without worshipping, caring without clinging, remembering without becoming trapped, missing someone without abandoning your own path. It is saying, I can acknowledge what I felt. I can honor what I lost, but I will not sacrifice my entire future to a past that cannot return. That is strength. Not the strength that looks fearless, but the strength that chooses peace even while grief still exists. Because healing does not mean you stop missing them overnight. Healing means missing them and still choosing not to betray yourself. Healing means remembering them without reopening the wound. Healing means accepting that they mattered while understanding that your life matters too. One day you will notice something surprising. You will go several hours without thinking about them, then several days, then an entire week. And when their memory returns, it will not destroy you. You will remember, but you will not collapse. You will miss them, but you will not chase them. You will feel sadness, but you will also feel gratitude. You will understand that they were part of your journey, not the destination. And perhaps one of the most beautiful realizations of all will arrive quietly. You will understand that you were never truly empty without them. You had simply forgotten yourself. The love you begged them to give you had been waiting inside your own heart. The reassurance you searched for had been waiting inside your own wisdom. The peace you thought only they could bring had always belonged to you. You were never incomplete. You were grieving. You were hopeful. You were wounded. But you were whole, even then, even now. You may have lost time. You may have lost sleep. You may have lost parts of yourself trying to hold on to someone who could not hold you properly. But you did not lose your ability to heal. You did not lose your capacity for joy. You did not lose your worth. And you certainly did not lose your future. Your story is not over. There are still people you have not met. There is still laughter waiting for you. There is still love that feels safe. There is still beauty that has not yet entered your life. There is still a version of you who wakes up without carrying this heaviness. And that version of you is closer than you think. Every time you choose yourself, you walk toward them. Every time you protect your peace, you walk toward them. Every time you stop begging for crumbs, you walk toward them. Every time you trust your own worth, you walk toward them. This is why choosing yourself is not selfish. It is sacred. It is the moment you stop handing your power to people who cannot carry it wisely. It is the moment you stop waiting outside closed doors. It is the moment you stop asking others to save you from pain they helped create. It is the moment you finally stand beside yourself. Perhaps this is the deepest lesson of all. The person who never valued you may have taken your attention. They may have taken your tears. They may have taken years of your emotional energy. But they do not get to take the rest of your life. They do not get to define your future. They do not get to decide whether your heart remains open. That choice belongs to you. So choose yourself. Choose the quiet peace you have ignored. Choose the life waiting outside the prison of attachment. Choose the dreams that still belong to you. Choose the version of yourself who no longer needs to beg for what should have been freely given. Choose yourself again and again, not because you stopped believing in love, but because you finally understand this truth. The deepest love was never meant to cost you your dignity. The deepest love was never meant to steal your peace. The deepest love was never meant to ask you to disappear. Real love brings you closer to yourself. And the moment you return to yourself, their power over you begins to fade. Not because they became smaller, but because you finally remembered how vast, valuable, and worthy your own soul has always been. And maybe, after everything you have been through, that is the greatest freedom of all, to stop asking someone else to choose you, and become the person who never abandons you again. Maybe the person you could not let go of was never meant to teach you how to suffer. Maybe they came into your life to teach you how to return to yourself. For so long, you believed that if they finally valued you, everything inside you would heal. You believed their love would silence your fears. You believed their attention would make you feel worthy. You believed their choice would finally bring you peace. So you waited, you hoped, you forgave, you stayed. You carried memories that kept breaking your heart. You carried questions that never found answers. You carried love long after it stopped carrying you. And perhaps no one ever saw how heavy that became. No one saw the nights you lay awake replaying conversations. No one saw how many times you checked your phone and pretended it did not matter. No one saw the tears you wiped away before anyone entered the room. No one saw how many times you smiled while quietly grieving someone who was still alive. You kept showing up for life while your heart was fighting battles no one knew about. And if that is where you are right now, please hear this. You are not weak because you stayed. You are not foolish because you hoped. You are not broken because you loved deeply. You stayed because your heart believed in the goodness of people. You hoped because you wanted love to win. You held on because you thought patience would one day become peace. There is nothing shameful about that. But there comes a moment when love asks a different question. Not, how much more can I give? But, how much longer will I abandon myself? Because love for others should never require hatred toward yourself. Compassion should never demand your destruction. Loyalty should never cost you your dignity. And devotion should never ask you to live with an empty heart. The truth is, maybe they never saw your worth. Maybe they never understood the depth of what you offered. Maybe they never realized how rare your loyalty was. Maybe they never appreciated the love you placed so gently into their hands. But their inability to recognize your value was never proof that you had none. A flower remains beautiful even in a garden where no one notices it. The moon does not stop shining because someone closes their curtains. And your soul does not lose its light simply because someone was too wounded, too distracted, or too incapable to cherish it. You are still worthy. You are still enough. You are still deserving of a love that does not confuse you, a love that does not disappear, a love that does not make you beg, a love that does not ask you to shrink. But before that love arrives from another person, may it begin with you. May you become the safe place you have been searching for. May you speak to yourself with kindness. May you protect your peace with courage. May you stop apologizing for having needs. May you stop chasing people who only teach your heart how to wait. May you stop calling suffering love. And may you remember that choosing yourself is not selfish. It is sacred, because your heart deserves rest, your mind deserves stillness, your soul deserves freedom, and your life deserves more than endless waiting. One day, this pain will not live inside you the way it does today. One day, their name will pass through your mind without taking your peace with it. One day, you will remember them without reopening the wound. One day, you will realize that the person you thought you could not live without was never the source of your wholeness. Because you were whole before they arrived, and you remained whole after they left, you simply forgot. But now, you are remembering. You are remembering your strength. You are remembering your worth. You are remembering the dreams you put aside. You are remembering the person you were before attachment convinced you that you were incomplete. And maybe this was never the story of losing someone else. Maybe this was always the story of finding yourself again. So if your heart is still aching, be patient with it. If you still miss them, be gentle with yourself. Healing is not forgetting. Healing is remembering your own value while carrying the memory with wisdom instead of suffering. Take your time. Cry if you need to. Rest if you need to. Begin again if you need to. But whatever you do, do not return to the habit of abandoning yourself. Do not hand your future to people who cannot honor your heart. Do not spend another year waiting outside doors that were never meant to open. Choose yourself again and again and again, because the love you have been searching for has been calling your name all along. It lives in every boundary you set, every truth you speak, every tear you honor, every step you take toward peace, and every moment you decide that your soul deserves better than surviving on crumbs. As you leave this message today, I want you to remember one thing. The people who never valued you may have taken your time. They may have taken your tears. They may have taken pieces of your confidence. But they do not get to take the rest of your story. That story still belongs to you. So walk forward, not with bitterness, not with resentment, but with wisdom, with compassion, with quiet strength, and with the unshakable understanding that you never needed another person's permission to know your worth. You were always enough. You were always worthy. You were always deserving of peace. And perhaps the greatest act of love you will ever learn is not holding on to those who cannot choose you. It is finally choosing yourself and never abandoning yourself again.